And welcome to the Dean's Report Live, also known as the Dean Obeidallah Show. And I'm very happy to have with me today Qasim Rashid. You know him as a human rights attorney, hosts a show on SiriusXM on Urban View, the Qasim Rashid Show, and also has a great Substack, which I subscribe to, and I recommend literally and now here. So let's address this with Qasim Rashid. Qasim, nice to see you, my friend. Thanks so much for making time.
Hey man, thanks for having me on, man. I love the work you're doing. The feeling is mutual, and thank you for having these important conversations that we're just not seeing happen in corporate media as much as they need to.
Yeah, I mean, corporate media has an agenda I don't even understand anymore. I know it's about profit, but like you wrote an article, it's a very compelling article about, and it brought it to my attention, frankly. I did some more research. DOJ put out a memo a few weeks ago. It just got press yesterday.
Yeah,
That on it, it literally talks about, I want to be clear for everyone, it says prioritizing denaturalization.
yeah,
Again, prioritizing denaturalization. This isn't about migrants or green card holders. These are U.S. citizens like my fiance and my late dad and many others who have been naturalized as citizens, and now they want to take it away. So share a little bit about your concerns that you so well articulate in your article.
yeah. And this is taking things to the next level. And what they're trying to claim is that, well, Obama and Biden denaturalized. And I looked up that data. It's like 10 to 12 people a year, and those are
Right.
people who openly lied or hid some major criminal history. But what they're talking about, and if you read the memo, and I'm going to read just one portion of it, they have 10 conditions that they will use to denaturalize somebody, and one of them is any other cases referred to the civil division that the division determines to be sufficiently important to pursue. What that means is anyone's guess. It's just basically saying that if they decide this is important enough to pursue, we're going to go ahead and pursue it. And the examples that I give is, could that mean that a naturalized citizen writes an op-ed like Rumesa Ostruck did and gets denaturalized? Possibly. Could it mean that a naturalized citizen condemns genocide publicly like Mahmoud Khalil did and gets denaturalized? It could be. Could that mean I'm a naturalized citizen? Could it mean that hey, you called Trump a fascist, and that's a threat to national security, so we're going to go ahead and strip you of citizenship? Maybe, according to this memo, and that's fundamentally the major problem here.
It is deeply concerning. And just so people know, if you read about it, this was a tactic during the McCarthy era.
Yeah,
And it was used then to denaturalize U.S. citizens who they viewed as communists. Now it's whoever the enemy of the Trump regime is.
yeah,
And, there's also a really important point in there that the standard they're going to use is not criminal court. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's civil court.
yeah,
Well, you don't have a right to an attorney guaranteed by the Constitution. It doesn't have to be provided to you. And the burden of proof is only beyond the preponderance of the evidence. So, Cassim, to me, that adds another level of concern that they can go to a judge, to be a Trump appointed judge, no jury trial. And the judge says, I'm going to defer to the administration. They say you're a threat because one of the grounds literally is that you're a potential national security threat. You're not one now, potential. This
yeah,
is like, Tom Cruise and the preemptive crime stuff.
yeah.
Cassie's going to say some stuff in 3 years. We got to get him out of the country.
That's
It's
right.
really deeply alarming. So how much more concerning is that? It's in civil court and there's no guarantees for counsel.
Well, we're already seeing, and just for viewers to understand the difference between beyond reasonable doubt and preponderance of evidence is, beyond reasonable doubt is you're talking 99% sure. I mean, yeah, sure, by 1% miracle, it could be that this person's innocent. But, we've got the murder weapon, we've got the DNA, we've got the blood samples, we've got eyewitness testimony. Preponderance of evidence is it could go 50-50, but I'm going to give benefit of the doubt, well, 50.1%, and that's enough. And we already know on something as serious as death row, for example, that 11% of people on death row have been executed wrongfully. We already know that Black Americans, 50% are exonerated once put on death row. How severely messed up that is. Think about how much more aggressive and abrasive this is going to be for ordinary folks just going about their day. And because they criticize the wrong person or the wrong thing. We're seeing this example happen right now. You've got a musician in the UK who chanted death to the idea. Now, not my thing, but it's still free speech. It's talking about a military. That's being called terrorism, and he's had his visa revoked to the US. Meanwhile, Netanyahu, a credibly accused war criminal by the ICC, who's committing genocide, killed tens of thousands, by some estimates, hundreds of thousands of Palestinian civilians. He's a nuclear powered prime minister, and he's celebrated in the halls of Congress. And so this is what happens when you lack justice and when you lack due process of law. And when I say to folks, there's a reason why Martin Nehemiah wrote that poem the way he wrote it.
Mhm.
The first they came for, and I didn't speak up. And I saw a tweet. I can't remember who said it. I'd love to give credit, but he goes, "We're like 3 or 4 lines into that poem, and folks, it's not a very long poem. That's how serious the situation is right now."
I cannot agree with you more. And when I talk about the concerns that I have and you have and all of us have about Trump's embrace of fascism, which it is, it's academically speaking, is correct. It's not to scare people, it's to prepare you. Timothy Snyder talks about in his book on tyranny. The goal of people like Trump is to overwhelm us. It's to make us feel hopeless and
Right.
helpless and literally paralyze us with fear. But the more we are having understanding where this might go, my goal is that you're not paralyzed with fear. Look, I'm half Palestinian, I'm also half Sicilian. My Sicilian side gets angry at everything. So it's me, it's like I don't get despondent. I go, let's get a baseball bat and talk to this guy. Because I'm from Jersey. We're Sicilian. That's what we do, right? I'm not saying do that to Trump. I'm just saying that it's better to turn this into anger and not check
Right.
out, but check in. We need everyone now. The stakes are too high. And something else, and like to shift gears, but it's related to this big billionaires bill, as I've been calling it. It gives funding for Donald Trump to create a private army
Yeah.
of 10,000 ICE agents and build concentration camps, $45 million to build concentration camps. And guess it doesn't end with migrants, folks. That's where it begins. So how concerned are you about Donald Trump? We just visited the alligator Alcatraz,
Yeah.
where the GOP in Florida is selling merch. They're
Yeah.
selling alligator merchandise to make light of people being in a death camp. What are your concerns about this new ICE army that Trump might have?
Well, one, Dean, I want to give you your flowers because I think you were the first one I saw about a decade ago, maybe even more, when Trump was really coming to the prominence and there was conversations of him running for president. I think you were the first one I saw say that Donald Trump is not an aberration of the Republican Party; he's a manifestation to his logical conclusion. And at the time, I admit I'm like, that might be overreacting. I think it's a bit too much, but God love you and all the flowers to you. And I was wrong, and you were right on this one. I got on board real quick. I think by the time Keith Ellison had his warning, I'm like, okay, I heard Dean say it, I heard Keith Ellison say it. These are two pretty smart dudes. I better start paying closer attention. And I was like, dear God. And then by 2015 December, he had the Muslim ban announcement. I'm like, yeah, this guy's a fascist. We're in trouble. So I just want to give you your flowers there because I don't think
Thank you.
people took you seriously
I'm
enough.
needy, so I like compliments. I'm very needy for people who know me, so I like compliments. So thank you very much. Keep them coming.
That's a brown kid growing up problem. We never get complimented by our parents. We take them wherever we can
I
get them.
know.
But I think this is exactly it. This whole alligator alley. One of the things to point out is that there's been a long-standing fetish of white supremacists to feed black and brown people to alligators. And you can go back and find cartoons from the antebellum era, from the Jim Crow era, of feeding black and brown babies to alligators. So this is just a perpetuation of that same white supremacist mentality. One, two. Now the safeguards are off, and the safeguards are off because not only has a president been given this unlimited immunity from the Supreme Court, but this recent ruling that was supposed to be a birthright citizenship, where the Supreme Court said, you know what, now these federal injunctions can't be nationwide anymore. The executive order can be nationwide, but the injunction can't be nationwide. So now it makes it that much more difficult to protect ourselves. And so what I see when I see this happening is, look, we have the benefit of history. We have the benefit of hindsight. We know where this is going. We saw it in Nazi Germany, but I tell folks, more importantly, we saw it right here in the United States of America. Hitler's lawyers got their miscegenation idea laws from Jim Crow America. They came here, they studied,
Mhm.
and they went back to Hitler and they said, "Hey, Fuhrer, we might be Nazis, but we are not Americans. We cannot go that far." And obviously, they went that far and beyond. And Professor Whitman from Princeton University has written a brilliant book on this called Hitler's American Model. And so to me, all of this tells me that we need to be active and organized. We need to know how to protect ourselves. You need to know what to do when an ICE agent approaches you. And the first thing you do is you don't say a damn word. You don't say anything to them. They can lie to you to get you to say whatever they want. You cannot lie to them. So the best thing is don't open your mouth. Contact your lawyer. Speak only to your lawyer. If you're undocumented, don't go to places where ICE is going to be. I know it sucks to have to say that, but you need to have a lawyer on your side processing your documentation and your paperwork. You need to be able to show that. And if you are a citizen, then, my friends, this is our time to speak up and literally, put ourselves on the line. Because if we don't do it now, I'm telling you, Trump's already said the homegrowns are next. He's going to come after all of us aggressively. We need to take this seriously and lead by example right now.
And Kesman, you just touched on something that's so important that deserved more attention yesterday. Donald Trump, point blank, said that there are so many bad people here, including ones born here, and that we have to get rid of them. And
Right.
what he's doing is now floating the idea of somehow stripping citizenship from U.S. citizens who were born here, not even naturalized, and will become stateless and
Yeah.
send us somewhere, or at least imprison us. And you have to understand what Donald Trump and everyone watching and listening knows this is true. He's never hiding his agenda. He'll tell you what he's going to do. It's a question of, do people get on board or not in his party, or do they push back? Trump is coming for more than just migrants. You hate to invoke Hitler, except for the fascist playbook is helpful for all of us. They began camps within a few months and had been chancellor in 1933. First, there were political prisoners and communists and socialists, then later the Jews down the road. With Donald Trump, it's starting with migrants. It's going to open up to political prisoners. I have no doubt, as sure as you're listening, as sure as you're watching, we're going to have political prisoners who are U.S. citizens in this country, either fabricated charges or they're going to say, you're a potential threat and we had to do this. And the base of the GOP, Castle, they're going to be on board with it. That's the problem.
Yeah. I forgot which thinker said this, but he said that one of the most horrifying parts of Nazi Germany was you learned that 1/3 of the population will watch as the government kills 1/3 of the population will kill 1/3 of the population as the other 1/3 just watches, and that's like the kind of fear that I have right now. And this is why I tell folks that we cannot be distracted by the culture wars. We cannot, whether it's trans issues, and I don't mean to call that a distraction. I'm saying that they're trying to distract us by telling us
Right.
that the trans people aren't a real issue. Well, they're human beings, and we cannot let the division uh, make us forget that. We can't let these culture wars of migrants are taking your jobs. That's a distraction. Not that migrants are a distraction. It's that this wedge is trying to distract us from the humanity of migrants. I want to be very clear about what I'm saying here, because this is not a culture war. This is a class war. We're seeing billionaires panicking over Zoran Mamdani winning the New York City mayoral primary election. Unprecedented, brilliant the way he's doing it, and we're seeing Paramount $16 million settlement, Facebook $25 million settlement, ABC $15 million settlement, Columbia University with a $15 billion endowment begging Trump for $400 million. Law firms giving him $100 million in pro bono, legal advice. We're seeing the major structures capitulate like children in front of this fascist. And what scares them is someone like Azaran Mamdani, a 33-year-old immigrant from Uganda, a South Asian immigrant from Uganda, saying, "I'm not afraid of you. I'm not going to be intimidated by you." That scares the hell out of them. And I don't know if you've been watching what the New York Times has been doing, but while he was running, they said, do not rank him. Rank Whitney Tilson. Never mind that Whitney Tilson has accused him of wanting to kill Jewish people, and it's completely false, and is probably going to
Right.
get him death threats, or we're going to endorse him anyway. And then since then, they have published article after article after article about how evil Mamdani is. And all it's done, as far as I can tell, is increase his popularity, increase his impact, increase the desire of more people to run. I was listening to Amanda. Can't remember her last name, but she is the founder of Run for Something.
Amanda Littman?
Amanda Littman. And she said that they've had more people sign up from this
Yep.
event than at any point in the history of Run for Something. And so there's a change happening. And what I tell my conservative friends is, look, no one's coming to steal your money. No one's coming to steal your job, except the billionaires. We need class solidarity. Let's work together, red and blue, against this fascism, because it's going to destroy us all if we let them divide us.
And that's their goal. I mean, the goal of the wealthy, the bill that they're debating right now in Congress as we sit here is not, it's a cruel transfer of wealth. I've had numerous congressmen, and I'm sure you just spoke to Jamie Raskin moments ago, but that they could have done a tax cut without inflicting the pain.
Yeah.
They could have done it, they're adding $3 trillion to the deficit. They could add a $3.9 trillion to the deficit and not gutted Medicare and not gutted SNAP. the cruelty, I think, gives their base something to enjoy. That, hey, even though some might suffer, but hey, look at this. At least we have something. But I do want to shift to Zohran Madani because
Yeah.
I live in New York. I know Zohran a little bit from democratic Muslim events here in New York, and where we plot imposing Islamic law across America. No more BLTs in New York, folks. If he wins, just LTs. That's it. Turkey, bacon, cheeseburger. I'm kidding. But this is something, if that's the worst thing people said about it, by the way, me and Qasim are both Muslims. So these are the jokes we say in the meetings.
Yep.
So look, the excitement that he ginned up in the last few months of this campaign was unlike anything. I remember when he first announced, like a year ago,
Yeah.
and he texted me, "I'm running for mayor." I don't even know I responded. I'm like, I knew him a little bit. I'm like, okay, you're running for mayor. Come on, it's kind of funny. I'm like, okay, you should come on my show and talk about it. And he ended up not until like March coming on. But the point was, he captured something. He was speaking to people about affordability, about the income inequality divide, and also unapologetically saying, I will raise taxes on the wealthy, because that gives you credibility when you're talking about, I'm going to do free childcare, free buses. I'm going to take care of your rent and stabilize it. Well, how are you going to pay for a lot of this stuff? I'm going to raise tax on the rich, 2%. I'm going to raise corporate tax. That gives them credibility. That's freaking out corporate America here in New York. Unbelievable. So they're going nuts. So, and as a fellow Muslim, on a personal level, how does it feel that a guy who's a Muslim American, an immigrant like yourself, is the Democratic nominee and has a really good shot at being the next mayor of New York City?
I think it's beautiful. I think that's what makes America great. That folks from all walks of life. And I was joking about this. That all we've heard since 9/11 is, why won't Muslims assimilate? And then a Muslim's like, yeah, bet I'm going to run for mayor. And then they're like, no, 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 not like that. What we mean is just shut up and listen to what we want you to do. Convert to Christianity, but don't actually become leaders and elected officials and convince people that you're not a threat. And so I think with Zoran, he really beautifully said this after he was asked about these absurd attacks against him by Senator Gillibrand and by Deborah Messing, who's, I think, probably more irrelevant than ever before. And he goes, look, my goal in running was because I see so many people who look like me, not just Muslims, but people from underrepresented backgrounds kind of living in the shadows. And I want them to know that they don't have to live in the shadows. They can be their true selves and live out in the open. And that's an addition to our city. That's an addition to our country. So I think that his ability to respond with grace to all the hate is truly powerful. It's inspiring. It's, dare I say, Islamic, and the example that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us as well. I also think that what excites me most about him is that it's not fluff. It's their substance. I mean, the substance is undeniable. His policies are undeniable. I was talking to his campaign team and I'm like, what was his secret sauce? How did he get this thing to just flip like this? And they said that, he did something that the Democratic Party still hasn't done. He looked at the districts where there was the biggest rightward shift after the 2024 election. And he took the time to go to those boroughs, those neighborhoods, and just talk to people and say, hey, why did you change your vote? I'm not here to convince you otherwise. I just want to understand. And talk to Trump voter after Trump voter after Trump voter, only to listen. And he built his policies of freezing rent, of free childcare, free transportation, a 2% tax on millionaires. He built that policy based on what people were telling him. And so for him at that point, it was, how do we just get a critical mass of folks to understand that what you want is what I'm running on? And once that happened, once that tipping point happened, and he was able to get the volunteers and then explode the volunteers of 50,000, which is incredible. It's a city of volunteers. Then it was a foregone conclusion. Then someone like Cuomo and with the backing of Michael Bloomberg and whoever else billionaires he had behind him, Bill Ackman, for God's sake, then it didn't matter anymore. And that's why I wrote an article the day after that this was the many versus the money. And the many will win out every single time, because once you inoculate the many from the disinformation caused by the money, then you can have $1 trillion. It won't matter at that point. And that's what he did successfully. That's what I love about the way he ran this campaign.
And, for the Muslim community, and it's not specific to us, any minority community, if someone from your community gets to a point of this success, it's a sense of pride.
Yeah.
It's also a sense of jealousy, a little. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding. It's a sense of pride, right? So we are all really proud of this guy and what he's going to do. It also makes us defensive of him. But at the same time, to be clear, and I know Zoran a little bit, we're again, not close friends. We just know each other through events and mutual friends and stuff. If he was anti-Jewish, I would never support him.
100%.
I've done 20 plus years of interfaith work fighting against anti-Semitism and anti-bigot and like Muslim bigotry. My buddy Scott Blakeman did a comedy show, Standing for Peace, at synagogues, at colleges, all over the place, at mosques, you name it. Same thing for you. It's inconsistent with our values as Americans and as Muslims. But to me, I think we have to have new terms. There should be a discussion of anti-Jewishness, which we all have to denounce, and then talking about the policies of a nation like Israel, which is separate. It's a separate discussion. Unless someone's advocating slaughter everyone in Israel, then that would be anti-Jewish. But when you talk about the policies of Benjamin Netanyahu, a guy who starts war crimes, that's a discussion that you have. You could agree or disagree. If someone gets in the world of anti-Jewishness, I would condemn them in a second. You would. All of us would, and all of us should. That's our obligation as human beings, as fellow Americans, to do that. So I find the smears of him to be, it's so pathetic. It's by people who have a different agenda. They're not, some of them are the Wall Street type, and some are just very, very right-wing pro-Israel, and they view him as a threat to that narrative. And I think it's a mistake. They have an ally there who's going to fight against anti-Semitism, who's going to create this community safety office, who's going to deal with hate crimes and fund it. And anti-Semitism is one of the top things, and he's talked about the spike in anti-Semitism. And that's all very important for us as fellow Americans. We're talking about no anti-Muslim bigotry, no anti-Semitism, no anti-LGBTQ hate, no racism. This is a common fight as human beings.
Exactly.
And I hate the divisiveness of some of them.
Well, and this is what I mean, that we can't let these culture wars divide us. We got to focus on the class war that's being waged against us. And I'll go another step. In addition to everything you said, I co-sign that 100%. Is that these politicians, Republicans and Democrats, who insist on this smear against Mamdani, to me, it tells me that they're ignoring Brad Lander, the highest-ranking Jewish elected official in New York City. They're ignoring Bernie Sanders. They're ignoring Jerry Nadler. Very Jewish, very prominent leaders. These are not stupid people. They're not going to endorse somebody and they don't need his endorsement. They don't, they have no benefit from endorsing him. It's not politically expedient for Jerry Nadler to endorse him. I mean, Jerry Nadler's, had a long, illustrious career. This 33-year-old kid's not going to do anything for him. And so when you're telling me that, hey, Jerry Nadler doesn't know what he's talking about, or Brad Lander doesn't know what he's talking about, this guy's anti-Semitic, it tells me that you're erasing those Jewish voices, and actually, that's you being anti-Semitic at that point. And I think when you actually listen to what Mamdani has said, this quote about the Intifada and everything, I'm like, let me just go back and watch the video that he's being accused of praising this term apparently, and I watched it like 4 times. I'm like, I'm not seeing it. I'm like, what is even going on here? He doesn't say the term. His whole point is, my job is to look out for the humanity of Jewish people. That's what I'm focused on. So you can attribute whatever you want to this phraseology. People call it different things. I'm not going to get into the minutia of that. What I am going to get into is, my North Star is to ensure Jewish people feel safe. And one example, one evidence of how I'm going to do that is increased funding, 800%, to combat anti-Jewish hate, anti-Semitic hate. And I'll add one more thing, Dean, about this from a prophetic and religious standpoint that I don't think people realize. From a historical standpoint, the first constitution in history, the first secular constitution in history that categorically condemned anti-Semitism was by the Prophet Muhammad when he was in Medina. It was the Charter of Medina. It has 54 articles. Article 17 says in clear terms, no Jewish person shall be wronged for being a Jewish person. This is the Prophet himself dictated this. And so from a practical standpoint, from a religious standpoint, from a moral standpoint, there is no room to be a Muslim and to have hatred for Jewish people. It's oil and vinegar. Or oil and water. It just doesn't mix. And so the idea that is the slander being used, it tells me that they are so desperate to take down this guy because they know his message of economic justice is resonating. It is infectious. It is powerful. It is proven. It is beyond a shadow of a doubt proven. And because they can't take him down on the messaging, they have to do character assassinations. And that to me is why people despise politics. But that's where I also love how Zoran is rising above it and say, I'm not going to get in the mud with you. You can go ahead and wrestle with all the pigs you want. I'm going to focus on doing what I need to do to fight for working people. And I think that's why he's going to win in November.
It's vitally important. And, there is anti-Muslim bigotry directed at Zoran, which affects the entire community. Everyone knows that. I mean, Martin Luther King talking about injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere, how it affects all of us, and it does. Because when bigotry is out there, And I've never seen this much anti-Muslim bigotry until Trump's first campaign in 2015 and 2016, which resulted in the most hate crimes against Muslims, even worse than after 9/11. That was just the language of Donald Trump. So I fear this will manifest as hate crimes against our community, especially women with hijabs. They're the most visible. People see them, they know. They don't look at me and think Muslim, they think Jersey guy, which I am a Jersey guy. But I'm also, half Italian, half Arab. But it's women with hijabs that have to live that life all the time. And I fear for them. But I am really happy that the community is more organized now and more involved in politics than we were in 2015, by far. We're really, so this is what, that's the thing going forward that I think so important. Last thing, I mean, when you see now Donald Trump's demonization of immigrants, migrants, how concerned are you that it's laying the groundwork to dehumanize people to the level of almost genocide against a group of people in this country? Because this is existential, it's called elimination rhetoric. That's the real term. It's an existential threat. How concerned are you about that?
I'm deeply concerned because I think this is a man who has already proven that he has no problem funding genocide. We see how he's continuing to arm Netanyahu to bomb Palestinians. Palestinians are being killed by the hundreds while getting aid, shutting down UNRWA, shutting down all access points of aid, and then saying, no, you have to get it from this Israeli station. And then the Israeli soldiers, Haaretz just had a devastating report on this a couple of days ago, that the soldiers are themselves testifying that we were ordered to shoot on Palestinians who are only coming here to get food. And so, I mean, that is genocide. Trump is enabling it. He's praising Netanyahu as a great leader. And so the fact, anyone who thinks that he's going to let some arbitrary border, man-made border, decide he's going to do it over there, but not over here, I'm sorry, you've missed the boat on this one. The fact that he's doing it over there, he's going to do it. I think it's Tony Bennett, a social scientist, historian. He said that the way that a government treats refugees and immigrants is instructive, because if they could get away with it, that's how they would treat citizens as well. And so, be aware of what's happening. Don't let the Overton window shift. Don't cede an inch to this fascist ideology. We're already seeing the concentration camps being built, with the deep irony that they're being built on stolen indigenous land to traffic more, Latinos, who many of them trace their ancestry to indigenous, peoples as well. And so I'm very worried about it, Dean. I'm glad you're talking about it and elevating it on your platform. And I would ask the hundreds of people watching this right now to continue to elevate this critical topic, because if we let this slide, it's only going to go worse, and it's a one-way street at a certain point.
And there was a quote by Martin Luther King before we wrap up that I've always find inspirational, where he talked about the greatest tragedy isn't the strident clamor of the bad people; it's the appalling silence of the good people.
Right.
If you're a good person, you have to speak up. Right. It is on you. It's on all of us. We are each other's sisters and brothers keepers. We are the ones that have to step up now, especially if you have the benefit of having, you're a citizen or you have no accent. You can speak for those who are not citizens, who do have an accent, who is easy to demonize and dismiss as others. I think it's for us. And that's why I'm a Democrat, too. I mean, to me, a Democrat means standing up for people I've not met and will never meet, but I still care about them. Right. And I want policies to help them. And it's who we are. So before I let you go, where can people follow your work, my friend? You're doing great stuff.
Thank you, man. This my website, QasimRashid.com. That's also my Substack. Let's address this with Qasim Rashid. I'm at Qasim Rashid, QasimRashid, across all platforms. So whatever is your preferred platform, I'm there at that handle. And subscribe. None of my content is behind a paywall, by the way. It's all free access. If you want to be a paid subscriber, I'd love you to death for it. But for me, it's more about just making sure that this information on human rights and justice is available and accessible. So would love your support, whether it's a free or a paid subscriber.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks so much. And thanks for everyone for tuning in. I appreciate it. Sign up for Qasim's thing. If you haven't signed up for mine, sign up, because I'm needy and it really helps me sleep better. So, all right, brother. Thanks so much. Have a good night. Take care, everybody.